Tash Talks is brought to you by Recharge, simplifying growth for consumer brands. Hello and welcome to Tash Talks. I'm thrilled to be joined today by Gil and Wes from the technology company Leaf. Now, there is a sea of agencies out there serving e-commerce brands, as we all know, and in that sea of agencies, these are the guys that I trust, and we're going to be finding out exactly why. Welcome both of you.
Yeah, thanks.
Gil, do you want to kick off? Tell us a bit about you. You're one of the co-founders of Leaf. Tell us a bit about, and you're from Costa Rica, I just found out. So tell us a bit about you.
Yeah, so we started a little bit more than 10 years ago. You never got to celebrate, actually. But it's been a while. We started in the music space. Our original mission was to empower musicians to engage, grow, and monetize. Little do we know that means marketing. And there was a lot of things that we didn't know at the time. We had this passion and mission to connect people to music and to artists. And that's what we did. And in building that offering and getting the success that we had back in the day, we realized that marketing and this thing that has now become performance marketing was such a black magic box that not a lot of people knew how to handle. And we realized that more and more it was becoming a data game. And one thing took us to the next. We realized that whether you're Justin Bieber or Nike, you're competing for the same real estate. You're trying to get to the same type of people at the right moment with the right type of offering. And then we started pivoting towards retail and to consumer. And then a few years ago, we made the choice to just focus on that 100% and go 100% at it.
Do many people who come to Leaf know that you built one of what you've just told me was the biggest music streaming platforms in Latin America?
I don't think so. The stories are there, right? The articles are there and all that. It gave us a great playground for us to be able to learn and do things. One of the early things that we did, because we didn't have any marketing experience back in the day, we're product people, we're tech people. That's what we did and do. And so we took a very engineering approach to marketing. And back in the day, there was nothing like PMax or even the budget allocations or automation or any of that. We had to build a lot of it ourselves through technology, which had allowed us to, and this is before Cambridge Analytica, we changed a lot of the landscape in advertising and targeting and stuff like that. It allowed us to do a lot of great stuff. And we were able to collaborate with Facebook at the time and with others. And I think the very same things morph into one and the other. We went and we worked with all the major labels and the major independent ones, and then we realized that there was a market going into that. I don't think a lot of the brands that in our portfolio would know that background in music. We still love it that we have that background in ourselves, but in many ways that feels like completely ages ago that we did that.
I think what's interesting is that technology was leading everything you did then, and I don't even know if all the brands, when they're looking for agencies or thinking about agencies, would even appreciate how much that knowledge and experience will determine their own success or not.
It does, and we were talking about this earlier today. A lot of people believe that agencies, it's all about people. It probably used to be that way. We feel and believe that nowadays the lion's share lies in the technology and in the data and how much opinion you can give to that data. And in many ways, that's why we've made the choice to do what we do, especially putting so much attention into technology and the way we build the opinion that we have been able to build over the years into what matters. Because, there is a lot of vanity metrics, and depending on who you work with, they're going to show you what probably they think is the best. What we've done is build a platform at the core of it that makes everything transparent and give brands a clear view, a transparent view of what performance lies. Mm-hmm. It keeps us accountable, because at the end of the day, that's what we want. But it keeps the brand accountable as well, because it shows the good and the ugly, but it's only in that transparency that you're able to make the right type of decisions to grow things.
I love that, the good and the ugly. So Wes, let's come on to you. I've had the pleasure of being on quite a few calls with you recently, and obviously your reputation precedes you as one of the most experienced and straight talking people in this industry. Tell me a bit about you and how you got into working with Gilbert.
Yeah, so my background is I've taken a few right angle turns, let's say, so from music to copywriting to social investment and then early stage tech investment. And that's where I met Gil and now my business partners, and where Leaf Music was being born at a Tech Accelerator program in Newcastle. We joined forces and then, really started experimenting very quickly with marketing. We had a total naive approach to marketing, which I think is a really great approach to anything when you're doing it for the first time. Actually, it's a real strength, because you don't know what isn't possible. You just think everything's possible and you think you're amazing and no one's done this before. And so you go and invent a bunch of stuff that's probably been invented before and you think it has. And then you realize that you're doing something totally different and nobody's actually done that stuff before, even though it seemed really obvious to you at the time. The good thing from my perspective about being able to work with Gil and Hel and having to change my mindset a little bit was, if you ask Gil, and especially Helga, who's our CTO, she built the Grinder app, amongst other things. If you ask her if it's possible, she will say anything is possible with technology. But, and there's always a but, just what do you want to prioritize? And I'm like, the idea that I'm having right now, what I want to prioritize, which you can't do. You've got a team of 50 people building products. But at the time, there was 5 of us. And we were just moving quickly, breaking things a la Facebook, and just drinking that Kool-Aid. Really, at the time, you could run tests on Facebook ads. £1, you could test 1,000 images. You could measure the engagement. You could bring them into our app at the time, and it might cost us, I don't know, several cents to acquire a user in, say, Bolivia, and it might cost us $10 to get one from Finland, but the one in Finland might be 100 times more engaged. And we started feeding that engagement data back into the ad platforms and then just saying, just go and get us the balance between volume and then engagement. Because at the time, everyone's talking about vanity metrics, and vanity metrics don't matter. But when you go and raise investment, they're like, how many users have you got? And you're like, I thought the vanity metrics didn't matter. And they're like, they don't, but they do. And so you've got to have this balance between volume, and it's just fast forward 10 years. It's the same in e-com, really. I think they want customers and they want traffic, but then they want LTV and the right type of customer. And actually, as a brand grows and matures, they start moving those kind of the goalposts from one metric to another, and then after a while you realize like all metrics matter, and it goes into one big metric, which is your bottom line.
Yeah,
and
your profit, right?
Exactly.
It's your profit.
Yeah.
And you will be surprised how little brands, regardless of the size, know their unit economics.
Listen, it won't surprise me because I've worked with brands for years and I'm always astounded by brands who don't know their unit economics. I've had situations where you've got a really famous household name brand, and I'm nowhere near as sophisticated as you guys, as we all know, but you'll have a really famous household name brand telling me their LTV is like 120 or something, and you're looking into it and thinking, it's more than 40. And you're thinking, am I going to be the one? Are you telling me you guys don't know this? It's unbelievable.
The problem is, like, every business is different.
And you have to do this. You have to do this as an entrepreneur. You've got to tell yourself a story that you believe in. That helps you, like, get up early. It helps you work late. It helps you work. It gives you this extra energy and it gives you this drive to achieve something. As soon as that shroud starts to fall away and that kind of lifeblood of the passion and the drive is that belief and that vision, it can undermine everything. And you see it with a lot of founders and entrepreneurs. Eventually they just stop believing and they just give up. Sometimes you've got to tell yourself, but you can't tell yourself that your unit economics look like X. And especially when you've got loads of people to pay, you've got a team of 50, you're going to...
And you're using that to make decisions. And like one of the things that, I think this goes back to the opinionation that we bring. We're very opinionated, for good or bad. But we bring that opinion into the table because I feel like everybody should have an opinion. And it's one of those things where you have a strong opinion but loosely held type of thing. It's like, like it should be easy to change that opinion if you're presented with the data that tells you otherwise. But I personally believe that in transparency lie solutions. And you really want to get to transparency, to the real deal, in order to be able to make decisions that correct the way or that helps you push through. But yeah, that's something that as an engineer, I find quite interesting because from an engineering mindset, everything is zeros and ones, right? So like data doesn't lie, right?
There's a situation where the computer's turned off though, and it's neither a zero or a none. Some a very went very crazy.
We're moving now into quantum computing and all that. But at the end of the day, it's a very discrete mathematic. It's not about feel and God. Like unit economics is accounting. And I think being able to have that clear, which is something that we do with the great majority of our brands in the early stage, even when we're going through the selection process. And it's about understanding those numbers because everybody wants to come in and request 10x ROAS and whatever, like even if it's not like the benchmark or it doesn't make sense for the business model.
Yeah, we have some clients where when we're doing the forecast in a pitch, we'll do the forecast and the forecast will show several different scenarios, maybe 5 different scenarios, and those scenarios will show if you spend this amount of money, you spend a little bit more, maybe your ROAS will increase. Maybe if you've got a lot of organic traffic, it's probably just going to come down as your ratio of paid traffic to organic traffic starts to favour paid. And they just cannot get their heads round that we're pitching them, that we're going to deliver them less ROAS over time, but we're like, but look at the bottom line. The numbers work so that you make more sales, you make more revenue, and you make more profit, even though you're making less blended return on ad spend. And even to turn that on its head, I know most agencies will probably never want to show that to a brand to say what we're going to show them, that we're going to make them less blended return on ad spend over time. But that's the truth, though. That's the transparency. And once we sign to work with a brand, straight from the off, they know what direction things are going because we've been very truthful with how we've laid this out, factoring in their unit economics. If they don't have a good handle on the unit economics and they can't get the head around that, normally we don't work with those types of brands until they come back to us and say, we understand what you were trying to say now. We understand how this...
Even seasonality. Like most brands don't understand their seasonality.
Especially new brands who are just spending more and more each month on a linear program. We always see this, and then they say, I think we had a brand that said, oh no, our customers, they don't care about the sales season and about Black Friday, and so we just went and got all the ads that their competitors were running and all the offers and discounts and everything their competitors were doing during Black Friday. And went, your entire industry seems to care about that, and they were like, yeah, but not our customer. Let's just try it. And lo and behold, Black Friday comes and they put a sale and they have their record month ever. And they're like, oh, wow. Yeah. And the data's just out there. You've just got to believe it. I know you've got to have your own gut and you've got like a sense of who your customer is in your industry. But
it is very different if you stand against those elements, right? And we have brands who they will never discount and that is their stand, and you support it and you deliver a strategy that supports that. But it's understanding. I think one of the things that we tell all the brands in the portfolio that we work with is we are on the same team. Oftentimes they see their marketing partners or whatever as a us versus them type of thing.
I know, which is so frustrating, isn't it? That kind of when they see you like that, because you are on the same team. Their success is your success.
Yeah. Like all the relationships that we go into as a long-term relation, I know a lot of people say that the marketing industry is like a revolving door and you need to factor that into the business or whatever. But I can't, in a certain extent, it's true, but it's true because I feel like of misaligned expectations. A lot of people, I'm not going to say everybody, but a lot of people are looking for silver bullets. Yeah. And when they realize that there is no such a thing, they move into the next one because they believe that there's a silver bullet.
Yeah, brands think that as a performance agency, you can solve a lot of their problems by pushing some buttons in an ad account.
It's so true.
And they
also think you've got a magic button somewhere.
Yeah, and
you just need to press it.
Or that they've read an article and that you aren't doing this magic thing in PPC world that they've read in this article. And you've been doing it for 12 years and you do it all day, every day, and you've got the best minds in the industry, and it's really difficult to say to them, actually, there's so many ways to skin a cat. Once you've got your proper setups in an ad account, there's not that much more you can do really, because the targeting's going really broad. The ad platforms want you to leave the campaigns alone and recommend, don't make changes. Just leave it to us, which is, we get what they're trying to say. And you go to some of these conferences with Meta and Google and they're like, yeah, just leave it all up to us. But what if your conversion tracking's broken? And they're like, oh, the creative does all the performance. But what if the conversion tracking's broken and you're not feeding in the right event data and customer data and product data into the ad platforms? They literally cannot do their bidding because they don't have the right data. And if that is the thing that is feeding all the targeting, then that's where we should focus all our attention, not just keep reactively pushing budget here and pushing budget there and turning this ad off and turning this campaign off and relaunching this. It's going to get you nowhere, and it's going to get you nowhere very quickly. Once you've got your campaign set up and you can take account of the business as unit economics, their product category structures, the funnel, and you've got your exclusions tight, then really you don't need any more campaigns, really. You should just be able to feed content and product into this structure. And I really believe that in a performance world, in 10 years' time, product catalogs and actually just product imagery from a performance point of view, it will be so dry and formulaic because the ad platforms just want to recognize what the product is. I'll discount brand because brand, yeah, you can have your brand campaigns running that make people feel something, that give people reasons to believe in your brand, and that's all the other stuff. But when someone's in the mood to shop, you don't walk past the store, Marks and Spencer's, and there's this huge video with some like landscape. You're just like, fuck off, just show me the trousers or the dress or the hat, for fuck's sake. Stop trying to sell to me. It's just I either like it and I'm going to come in and I can afford it and I'm going to buy it and I'm going to try it on, or not. Do you know what I mean? And I honestly think it's the same for social. I think people think and try and over-engineer.
I so agree. And I always think at the end of every click, there is a person, and that person is a free person who can decide to buy something or not to buy something. You can't actually control the human at the end of the creative,
this goes back to the silver bullet, right?
Yeah,
People
you can't
believe that there is like some kind of like
algorithm that's going.
I know. The amount of time, like Trini London, I've never bought from Trini London, despite the fact I am definitely a fan of her products and want to get targeted by her ads all the time. Why not? I don't even know why not. I just haven't actually done it.
Yeah.
That's the nightmare that you're dealing with.
And
these
it might just
people
be time. You might do it eventually.
It will eventually, but I always think now, God, I'm in this retargeting sequence, been going on for years. Like, when am I actually going to buy? But let's come on to what you guys call performance intelligence, which is about conversion tracking. Just explain what it is you do and how you do it differently. And you just told me a staggering statistic before we came on about how many brands do not have their conversion tracking working properly.
Yeah, so at the moment we're auditing thousands, tens of thousands of brands all over the UK and the US mainly, just to see what the scale of the problem is. We think billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of advertising spend are wasted every year because of broken conversion tracking or suboptimal conversion tracking. High-level conversion tracking is a way to monitor and measure the interactions that customers do on your websites. Landing on a page, viewing a product, adding something to cart, initiating a checkout and buying it. And those 5 key events are pretty much the lifeblood of e-commerce.
Yeah, they are.
If you are not tracking those events properly in terms of tracking them in the right place at the right time, tracking them once or every single time somebody does one, all the right parameters on those events, mainly product and currency and price parameters, and then capturing all the customer information where you can in a privacy first way, and then sending all that accurate data to the ad platforms, then you are not going to be able to win with paid media. And loads of brands are probably spending money in paid media and think, yeah, I'm winning, but actually it's just mopping up what's happening on organic and email. And then they get to a point where they push more budget into Google and then they don't see any more incremental revenue and they're thinking, like, what's going on? And they can't figure it out. And a lot of the time that's structures within the ad accounts, but a lot of the time they're just not capturing the right information on the pixels and the tags and sending it to the ad platforms.
Why are they not?
Because they're really super mega complicated.
Right.
And so brands are getting web developers. No offense to the web developers, but web developers aren't software engineers. They're web developers that know a very slim veneer, a subset of the whole engineering language. And I didn't know this until I was working with Gil and Hell, and they're like, yeah, a web developer's not going to be able to do that because it's not web development. This is software engineering. This is data engineering.
You're right. Brands do look to their web developers.
Yeah, and the web developers. So I always say it's like having a plumber do your lecky. Like,
Yeah.
they're handy. They're going to give it a go, and it might work for a bit, but eventually your lights are going to blow. Then you're going to have to get the real guy in who's
Yeah.
going to cost more, and you buy cheap and you buy twice. In the meantime, you've been wasting like loads of money on your lecky bill that's been like firing, and just it's not been insulated properly and all this, and you're just wasting energy left and centre. And it's just exactly the same, except with the ad platforms now, everything that you send into those ad platforms is training the algorithm. So if you send customer and product and event information and combine it, the algorithm just goes, yeah, this lady who looks like this, who has visited this Trinity's website and never bought, but she's visited and she looks high intent and she's added to cart and she's added these pink trousers this side to cart. I'm going to retarget her with this exact stuff. But if you don't send the right stuff, it's going to retarget like, some right-wing maniac with a sparkles with Starmer t-shirt or something like that. It's going to be so far off.
And it's interesting, right? And we take it personal because it is what we do. But something that I hate is when I go and buy something, maybe through an ad, and 5 minutes later, I still get retargeted, and I keep retargeted like as if I never bought. I'm like, you're wasting money, mate. Like, I just already bought. Like, why you keep retargeting me as if, and it retargets me with the same product? I was like, I just bought it. But it just shows that it's not working. And to your question of why it's so difficult or why it breaks, like a lot of people might think that they just set it up once and then it's one set and forget it type of thing. It ain't, because you're constantly making changes to websites. That's why you have a web development team probably on hand working on new features and CRO and all these kind of things that you're doing. One single line of code can break your conversion. Something that we built a couple of years ago, it's something called Watcher, and now it's all full of AI, which is what we're using now to audit all these thousands of brands. But Watcher, what it does is that it watches the conversion. It makes sure that the conversion doesn't break. And if it breaks, we find out within an hour.
Right.
And within an hour, we know that something broke. And then we go and figure out why it broke, and it gets fixed. But imagine if you're spending like whatever amount is it that you're spending. And the reason we bought this is because Dan, one of our team members, he would be like this. He's the type of guy who look at a graph and go, something's wrong here. Something's wrong here. And he just look at a graph in the platform and go, something changed. It's like one of those things like I can feel it in the water. He goes,
or something
like he sees and something's wrong. And he goes, conversion tracking's broken. And it broke yesterday, like at 2 p.m. And I knew it because I saw that change in the graph. And then we're like, we cannot depend on Dan looking at the graphs.
But most brands,
but they don't see it. And by the time they realize, it's probably too late. And the problem that happens with either breakage in the signal or sending the wrong type of data is that you might have campaigns, like Wes was saying, that have been running for months or weeks or whatever, and they're performing so well that the minute something breaks in the signal, then the algorithms start getting crazy. It's like, what happened? I was just like getting all this. And now suddenly they need to, Wes has this analogy of the ant trail, and then somebody breaking the trail, and then suddenly the ants having to go scatter around before they find it again. It's the same with signal, and it's worse because you're never going to be able to get the trail back until you fix it. But by the time you fix it, all of the data in your campaigns is broken.
We just spoke to a brand that I reckon spending between 10 and 20 million quid a year on paid media, so quite a lot. You could probably describe them as a household name. Got on a call with them. They were intrigued about our performance intelligence thing, and the guy was like, do you want me to give you the state of affairs? So he gave me the state of affairs of all their paid media and everything and all their numbers, and he had all the numbers. He showed me the spreadsheet, and he just said, yeah, and we've had these problems and these problems and numbers. And in probably 45 minutes this rant went on for. Really knowledgeable, really smart guy with a really good team at the brand he works at. And he didn't mention conversion tracking once, and I'd audited his site before I went on. And after all that, he was like, so look, a lot of information, but what do you think? And I was like, I think your conversion tracking's broken, mate. And he was like, no, it's not. We've got like an entire team. They report to me every week. I was like, mate, it's broken. I showed him screen share, showed him, I was like, it's broken there. There's about 17 critical issues. And the setup that you do have is a bog standard setup. because it's probably been done by your web developers. And he was like, what do you mean bog standard? I was like, it's done through Tag Manager. It's just bog standard. It's not server side. It's just, it requires a browser handshake, which means the server side isn't really server side. And he was just like, he got all his team on this meeting straight away. He was like, tell them what you just told me, show them. And they were just like, fuck. Anyway, we went and did a huge audit for this brand, and we've audited everything, not just the paid media tracking, because there's all sorts of stuff that does tracking on your website that can conflict, like clarity or whatever it is, other things that monitor the performance of your website and want to track stuff, Klaviyo, for example. And all this stuff just combines and adds up and adds in all this redundant code and conflicts with everything else. And then you're sending all that data to the ad platforms. And the ad platforms are getting all these mixed messages. And they don't have a really clear idea who your core customer is. Subscription brands really struggle with it, because a subscription, if you say a subscription's £50 and a one-off purchase is £60, but it's £50 a month with a subscription, the ad platforms are only seeing the first month's payment, so that customer looks cheaper and looks less valuable to the ad platforms than your one-off purchase customer. So it's just going to go out, and then they're using PPC campaigns. A lot of the time they're using target CPA or target ROAS. It's just going to favor your one-time purchase customers, because you're not sending the right data to the ad platforms. It doesn't know how valuable your customers are. The brands that are doing this really well are putting all their time and effort into data, and a lot of it, I know we said there's not much room for gut. There is a lot of room for gut in telling you, obviously, decisions to do with your product and the vision for your brand, but gut in terms of there's something in this data, like Dan from our team, he gets a sense this isn't right. We're putting the money in all the right areas against all the right audiences. Something is not right. And his first port of call is to our data services team. Is, yeah, Dan, you're right, it broke yesterday. They installed an app on their website, a simple app, and it's injected some code and it's removed the add to cart event. And now we're not retargeting people with the.
And this is something that we tell all the brands that we onboard is, let us know if you're making changes into the website, if you're bringing, just let us know. And because it might break like the conversion. And 9 out of 10, they don't. Because it's other team is completely disconnected to the team that work with you. There is one client of ours, which is probably the perfect client with regards to this stuff. It's Stolen Co. Lucy, if you're watching this, she's so proactive in giving us, like giving the team the roadmap and saying, this is what we're doing. And she engaged the team in saying, hey, we're doing this. Will this affect signal? And it's amazing, because like then you don't have to be catching the stuff, and you're working proactively to make sure that things stay on track.
Yeah, before we wrap up, I was going to say to you, what are the common traits of the most successful brands then? Number one is be proactive about your data, from what you're saying. Yeah. And your web development, because I definitely think that's something brands are not tying
all the web development agencies that we've met, big and niche, they'll tell us, like, just right now, like whilst we were waiting here outside of the studio, we got a message from Mate's e-com agency saying, hey guys, like, we need signal right here, like the conversion tracking it's completely broken. The web agencies know that's not their job. Like, it's outside of what they do. And if anything, they also don't want the responsibility, because there is a lot of accountability behind that, making sure that it works and all that. But it's about having a handle on the data and having a handle on, going back to the comment that we were making, we just finished auditing the top 10,000 e-com sites between the UK and the US.
What percentage have got that?
97% of all those brands have the conversion tracking broken.
97. That's crazy.
In some way, you could say suboptimal. Some are just broken, but 97%
of 10,000 brands have suboptimal, and they'll all be running paid media.
Yeah, 100%.
Up until that point, 100% of all the brands we'd audited over the past 5, 6, 7 years had broken conversion tracking in some way. And here we found out of 10,000, like a handful. Wow, you're doing it really well. You must have someone like us that's very data curious, and not from like every digital agency in the world, like we make data-driven decisions, like who doesn't, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not to, but being data engineering curious, like how is this shit plugged in? Like where is it getting the data? What data is it sending? And what is the risk along that pipeline and that flow. What can damage that data? How can I make sure that data is perfect when it leaves my website and goes into the ad platforms? And that first mile is how the best brands are winning at this stuff.
Is there anything else the best brands are doing, or is it all about... I love the analogy of the ants scattering. I think that's a brilliant analogy that's really easy for people to understand. Is there anything else the best brands
I don't
are
want to say, obviously, great product, right?
Yeah.
And being really passionate about your product and your brand. Without that, like, nothing else really matters. Like, the best conversion tracking and ad account button pushes in the world are going to make people buy shit products, right? But having said that, there's loads of shit products out there, so even that's not true. But yeah, great product, passion, but loads of the best entrepreneurs and the smartest people that we work with have gone in there and done it themselves and got an understanding of it. And then when they come to us, they're like, yeah, I've done this. I know you know your shit because I've tried to do this and I know what works for my brand. That makes our job really easy because we can have a conversation on the level. And another one is being able to have a team or a group of people or a person that can stand the brand up to an agency partner really well. The worst position we can be in is being on a call with someone who doesn't know shit about shit. And it's so difficult because they're relaying a message to someone else and we're talking very complex stuff that we can't dumb down that much because it is complex. There's no amount of dumbing it down.
I always agree with that. The person the agency reports into, brand side, is really important. They've got to be almost on the same level as the agency to be able to handle the conversations, particularly as budgets get bigger.
Yeah, they've got to be really curious and not just a digital native verging on like a kind of software engineering kind of mindset.
Yeah.
The kind of Lucy's got. She's so curious. She wants to understand as much as Helga understands. And I've had to say, like, even I, after 10 years, I'm nowhere near Helga's understanding. And it does take a long time to understand how everything is knitted together and built and how these platforms work. And even then, the software engineers in our business, when they come to look at the information that they can get from Google and Meta on how this stuff works and what to do, even that's a black box and it's very vague. They're like, yeah, we'll just let you figure it out. Here's the playground in which you can play. You just go and figure it out. We can't tell you too much.
So similar to this, right? Like how Wes is describing the interactions within the team. I feel like the same has to be within brand side. And kind of, it's about expectations and understanding the accountability of each side. Performance is just a portion of the equation. It's not the equation itself. And the brand has a very strong part on the mix as well. The brand aspect of it, especially building that community, that like making people trust and believe and really connect with your brand. Because what we're doing is we're trying to put your brand and your offering in front of the right type of people. And then through all these data flows, it nurtures that connection and the targeting and all that. But we cannot be responsible for the brand itself.
No, I know. You are 100% right. Performance is on the front line, but it's only one part of the overall success of the business, isn't it?
Yeah. And people
and if
nowadays...
you're overly reliant on it as well, you're in a really precarious position.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like nowadays, I feel like there's been a change, I feel like, in the industry where everybody now went from talking about ROAS to blended ROAS. Right? And I feel like somebody learned a new word and then suddenly push it.
Attribution's become totally impossible and a meaningless concept.
But it's interesting, right? Because
ROAS,
when you talk about blended ROAS, blended means everything.
Yeah.
Not just the performance side. It means organic, and it means affiliates, and it means all these other bits that somewhat falls outside. But people think that blended is just like another word for like just performance. And when you try to understand the impact that some of the decisions that you make on the brand side, on the website, on SEO, we had a brand who killed all of their organic SEO.
Systematically, week after week for 18 months.
And we
just 2 minutes.
We're getting kicked out of here.
Yeah, we are getting kicked out.
And then suddenly they came back and then said, oh, like our ROAS is, blended ROAS is going, yeah, this part of the ROAS is going up, but this other part of the ROAS that makes up for the blend is actually going down. This part of the it's accountability, it's elsewhere. And it's difficult to have this type of conversation because this goes back to the whole us versus them rhetoric when we're all in the same boat. We're all kind of like rowing in the same direction, or at least that's what I like to think.
I think that's a brilliant place to wrap up. And that is, I know from knowing you guys that you're rowing in the same direction as the brands that you work with. And I'm grateful that I can pass brands on to people with this level of data ability, which is far beyond what most agencies have. So thank you both for joining me today.
Thanks for having us, Tash. Yeah,
thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Tash Talks is brought to you by Recharge, simplifying growth for consumer brands.